The time has come again for the men that race the fastest cars in the world. 2 years ago, NBC made history with the first live flag-to-flag coverage of a 500-mile IndyCar race. It was a day to remember. The race was just underway when Bill Whittington spun, barely missing Phil Alsop and his passenger, our miniature onboard camera.
When Whittington started to spin, I couldn't go up to my right because Gordy was up there, so the only thing I could do was head for some daylight down below him.
As the green came out, the battle fell to Tom Sneva and Mike Mosley. Pancho Carter spun, but rejoined the race. Under the yellow, the racers sought the pits, but the routine turned terrifying as Herm Johnson's car caught fire.
Well, when the fire broke out, the first thing I wanted to do was just get out of Dodge and worry about anything else later. Just get out of that car.
The race was stopped, but the fire burned on. Heroism was commonplace as brave men waded through invisible alcohol flames to stop the blaze. Some crewmen paid a painful price. The drivers prepared again, concentrating on the drive itself, erasing all thoughts but the 500-mile challenge. Tom Sneva resumed the lead. The grand champion, A.J. Foyt, slammed the wall. His right arm was shattered. Some said his driving days were over. They knew little of the strength of Foyt. He would return. Johnny Rutherford blew a tire but drove the car to a stop. Pancho Carter survived it all, winning his first ever IndyCar race and the first Michigan 500.
When we spun early in the race, I felt that was probably the end of the hunt for winning the race, but it turned out that we got running strong and we ran hard all day.
Pancho Carter began the lineage of Michigan 500 winners. Last year, the promise of excitement was fulfilled again as the CART teams returned to the Irish Hills. Mario Andretti qualified quickest, but then crashed his car and was forced to start last.
I had to use the backup car in the race, and obviously to be able to keep the leaders in sight, I had to really go for it. So right at the start, I probably took a couple chances, but it worked pretty well.
Up front, Rick Mears and Gordon Johncock chopped at each other for the lead. A.J. Foyt became a victim as Hector Rabake swerved to avoid a slower car and pushed Foyt into the wall. For the second year in a row, it was A.J. Foyt to take an ambulance ride to the track hospital. Then, Andretti joined the fight from last place. Johncock took on all challenges, while Rick Mears found the wall. With Mears out of the way, it was Gordon Johncock that pulled the winner's circle.
I was very pleased last year when I seen the checkered flag at Michigan. There's been so many times that towards the end of the race with 10 or 15 laps to go that something happened to our race car when we've been leading several races. And last year I had a 14-second lead over my teammate Mario Andretti, but you never know what can happen towards the end.
In just a few moments, the process begins again. It's race day in Michigan for the 3rd annual Michigan 500.
And on the inside of row 1 is Teo Fabi, definitely one of the finest rookies we've had in many a year. 3 times on the pole this year, including the Indianapolis 500. In the center, Don Whittington. This man put 3 years of marches together to make this car. One of the best chassis men we have on the IndyCar circuit. On the outside, Tom Sneva. Tom won the Indianapolis 500 this year and is the only man capable of winning the Triple Crown this year.
In the second row on the inside, Bobby Rahal. Bobby is in his 2nd year of championship racing, and he won his first oval race on this track a year ago. Gordon Johncock, who considers this his home racetrack, is starting in the middle of the row. He is the defending champion. On the outside of row 2 is Pancho Carter from Brownsburg, Indiana. He won the very first Michigan 500 2 years ago here.
On the inside of row 3, Al Unser Sr. He's on a winning streak after a long dry spell, looking for 3 in a row. Alongside in the center, his teammate Rick Mears, the defending CART champion, but Rick crashed here in the 500 last year. And on the outside, rookie John Paul Jr. He's driving with a broken leg. He's a 23-year-old endurance racing veteran.
And on the inside of the 4th row is Mike Mosley, the sentimental favorite of many a race fan all over the country. Very capable of winning this race. And on the middle of row 4 is Kevin Cogan. Remember, Kevin was the controversial driver over the last year's Indianapolis 500 start, but also a very quick race driver. On the outside of row 4 is Chip Ganassi. Chip is a good rookie driver, good young driver, and the only Patrick Wildcat in the race.
On the inside of row 5, Patrick Bedard, who is not a professional driver, but a professional motorsports rider trying to get some inside information. In the middle of that row, Danny Ungaius, who is making somewhat of a comeback after several hard crashes in championship racing. And on the outside of that row, one of the rising young stars of championship racing, Al Unser Jr., who is on a roll. He just won the Pikes Peak Hill Climb.
Rick Mears on the pace laps have pulled into the pits for some quick changes by his crew. The rest of the field out on the course. Should be 1 lap to green. The 6th row, Halsmer, Brayton, and Andretti. In the 7th row, Chris Neifel, Dick Simon, Tony Bettenhausen. The 8th row, Jose Garza. Jeff Brabham replacing Desiree Wilson, who broke her leg in a race last week. Steve Chassie on the outside, the 9th row. Michael Chandler, Howdy Holmes with our camera car. Bill Alsop, the 10th row. Jerry Carl, Tom Bigelow, Dick Ferguson. And the 11th row, Johnny Parsons, Herm Johnson, and Jimmy McElreath. 11 rows of 3, and Rick Mears heads out of the pits after receiving some adjustment. Bobby Unser, you had the glasses up. Any idea what Rick needed?
Well, it looked like maybe the nose wasn't fastened, but the only thing I could figure, they weren't adjusting the wings, and the best I could figure, there was 2 possibilities. One of them, a shock absorber adjustment. The other one had to be possibly the Zeus not fastened on the nose.
And Rick Mears pulls around the field and drops back into his starting position. That's perfectly legal at this point in the race as he drops in between John Paul and Al Sr. The field now on the backstretch. There are 2 former winners in this field, 1 CART champion. 5 cars qualified at over 200. 4 rookies start this race today. 17 March cars, 5 Penske's, 2 Wildcats, 3 Eagles, a Lola, a Rattlesnake, a Primus, an Argo, a Watson, and a McElreath. As the pace car already through the 4th turn, and the pole sitter, Teo Fabi, brings the front row of Don Whittington and Tom Sneva ever so slowly to the line. Now the pace begins to quicken. The green flag is in the hands of the starter, Nick Fernaro. We wait and watch to see will the green flag come out. They come off the 4th turn. Bobby brings them down toward the line. The starter watches, the green flag flies, and we're underway and racing. Teo Fabi accelerates quickly, heads off. Whittington pulls up high, and Gordon Johncock moves down low and chases the leader.
Whittington has just gone around the outside and taken the lead down the backstretch with Johncock in 2nd, Fabi in 3rd.
A remarkable development right off the top as Don Whittington wants to lead this race. Gordon Johncock drops into 2nd. Teo Fabi continues dropping backwards.
The guy that's really moving right now, Paul, believe it or not, is going to be Tom Sneva. He's really taking a run at the leaders right now.
The leaders are side by side, almost touch wheels as they head to the start line, and it's a dead heat coming to the line. Almost impossible to tell who might have led, but now Tom Sneva moves out and around and picks up the lead.
They are really going after it to be this early in the race. Of course, Gordon Johncock, I can tell you, is going to make a move on Sneva. He's not going to let him get away.
We've got 2 stubborn people right there right now.
Well, Tom Sneva leading at the moment. We're in lap number 2 of the Michigan 500. Gordon Johncock right behind him. Don Whittington that jumped out in front is pulled back into 3rd. There is Johncock chopping at the back end of Sneva. Sneva continues to hold him off as they come toward the line one more time, and Johncock makes a try, pulling down inside Sneva. Can he hold that position? That's Don Whittington just sitting back and watching, and Gordon Johncock gets him.
Jordan is very fast there, Paul. He's like Johnny said earlier, he thinks this is his racetrack, and he's also a very, very headstrong driver. Of course, so is Tom Sneva. Remember what I said a while ago, there's going to be more racing than we've ever seen before because of the temperatures being so much cooler.
Well, originally when we talked with these drivers and crews, they said they were just going to take it nice and easy in the early going. But that's not the case here.
It's much like the start of a 150-miler, doesn't it?
It sure does. Gordon Johncock, the defending champion, pulls a little bit low coming across the line. Sneva is chasing him right now. And Don Whittington stays back in 3rd place. Teo Fabi has dropped back into 4th. Mario Andretti started 18th in this race. He's had problems developing this new Lola car, has now moved up into 10th position.
That's a pretty good move for Mario. Of course, that's the way he operates. Mario is the kind of guy that always is going for it. He'll be up in the front before we know it.
Here's 1st and 2nd. Gordon Johncock is now leading Tom Sneva. Bill Whittington, Don Whittington is sitting in 3rd.
You notice that Teo Fabi seems to be having a little bit of problem in the traffic. I don't know if you've noticed that, Paul, but I have. And Stephen and Gordy are really hooked up and gone, and so is Don Whittington. But Teo seems to be falling back. He seems to have a little bit of uncertainty as far as what he's going to do with the traffic.
Gordon Johncock in his car number 20 is out in front, and Johnny Rutherford, we alluded to it earlier, This is not the Wildcat that we have seen all season. This is a new car. This is a March. Here's Teo Fabi as he is trying to maintain 4th place, but Bobby Rahal is trying to challenge him for it. Rahal with a very good run.
Yes, Rahal is the kind of guy, you know, this, as I said, is his first victory was on this track in a short race, the end of last year. So he knows what it takes. He knows what it's like. Pacing himself for 500 miles is what it's going to take now.
That battle continues. We've got a car smoking heading into the 4th turn. Just a sudden plume of smoke coming out the back of the car, indicating an engine blows. And if it does that, then we have to watch behind it as well. Tom Bigelow, looks like the engine just let go on the car.
Well, it didn't let go completely, Paul. I think he has a very severe oil leak, and he's still continuing around, but he'll be in this lap, I'm sure.
Yellow flag is out.
Well, they'll bring him in. They have to, because he's got a very severe oil leak, if nothing else.
Here's how Howdy Holmes sees it as they're under the yellow now. Holmes heading into the 3rd turn. He'll acknowledge the yellow flag, and the field will line up behind Gordon Johncock, Tom Sneva, and Don Whittington. The yellow flag comes out as a result of Tom Bigelow, who blew an engine. Yellow flag flies at Michigan just here in the early going as the field lines up. We come back to racing speed as the pace car heads into the pit area, and it's now Tom Sneva, Gordon Johncock, and Don Whittington out in front at the head of the field. The green flag flies, and we come back to racing speed once again. Tom Sneva, car number 5, Johncock in 20. Johncock comes down low, tries Sneva on the inside. Can he hold on it? That lower line is faster, but it's also much harder to hang on to as Johncock moves past Sneva. Now they come to the backstretch. Can Sneva power past Johncock?
Boy, I don't know that. Johncock is really going for it, but look at Sneva pull right back down on the inside and go by Johncock. I can't believe that they're going at it like this early in the race.
I wonder whether or not these fellas are asking the same question we have been all day, and that is there the possibility of another rain shower rolling through here?
I don't think so. I think you just have stubborn people having a stubborn race, that's all.
Now here comes Whittington. Whittington up on the outside. He wanted to try Johncock. Couldn't do it on the high side, switches down low, scrubs off too much speed in doing it.
He almost got sawed off. Whittington almost got left out on the wall there by Johncock on that pass.
I think he just wanted Johncock to see him in the mirror on each side of the car. Johncock drops in behind Sneva now, picks up a little bit of the draft, so he has to keep some of the wings out in clean air, so he'll sit off him just a bit. And Johncock looks like he wants to make a bid again.
Oh, he sure does. He's moved down into that low line, and it looks like Gordy's working well there, so he may be getting used to it, getting adjusted to it, so he can use it later on when he really needs it.
Now Johncock comes up alongside Sneva again.
There he goes, by on the inside again, and he's got the right spot this time. He caught Tom just right to where Tom had to check his throttle, and that will hurt him. I don't think he'll be able to catch him down the back straightaway.
Well, as Sneva's engine jumps up to 11,000 RPM, 720 horsepower, as does Don Whittington. Here they come, 3 abreast. Sneva gets out of the throttle, and Whittington cruises on to first place.
That was a fabulous pass, Paul. That was really a good pass. Don Whittington caught both of them sleeping and went by both of them at the same time.
Boy, what terrific track savvy by Don Whittington.
I guarantee that Johncock was surprised when that happened.
So Don Whittington, car number 91 out in front, but Johncock doesn't want to allow that to happen. He tries on the inside, has to fall back.
Oh, I think Gordy's finally settling down. Boy, it looks like these guys on the yellow get all excited again and worked up about competition because of the delay in this race. Now they get back out there and settle down because you can see them start making the gentle moves and getting back behind the guy rather than challenging harder.
Don Whittington, who stated his intent by moving the Simonized March out in front of the field at the start of the race, then dropping back, we've got a problem. Howdy Holmes into the wall. A crash down in the first turn as Howdy Holmes ricochets off the wall.
Yes, and he's sliding down. The car has a lot of fluids coming out of it. Howdy appears to be nasty. He's thrown the steering wheel out of the way. He's coming out of the car, so evidently Howdy is all right as far as we can tell. Out of the car.
Howdy's all right, but I don't think our camera is. It's over the right shoulder of Howdy Holmes. The car certainly is badly damaged. There are the crews with Howdy.
He's taking a little bit of a shot. Yeah, he's looks like he's saying, I'm okay, but let me just stand here a little bit, kind of get used to this.
Dr. Steve Alvey, the CART medical director, comes up, asks Howdy how he is. Howdy says he's frustrated. He walks away from the car. The first incident in this race, of course, that brings out the yellow flag. Howdy Holmes. from right close by here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, unstraps his helmet and walks away from the Michigan 500. At the same time, our onboard camera bites the dust.
Yep. So much for the camera.
We were hoping it was going to be good luck.
Turns out he didn't need his cool head suit either.
Right.
There's Howdy as he comes up into the wall. It just looked like the car pushed up into the wall.
Yes, he just slid up there, Paul, and he didn't really hit it very hard. He was very lucky.
Here it is from a different angle. The car just traveled up into the wall.
He could have had a flat tire, believe it or not. In fact, it kind of looks like a flat tire.
Yeah, it looked that way because he just kind of laid up there. It didn't really...
Did a slow one into the wall.
Let's go down to Gary Gerald.
Gordy Johncock taking a drink of cold water, fuel being added on the near side, stubbornness on the tires on the right side, CART tuning, wheeling the air wrench, now checking underneath around the suspension. They come off the jacks. Johncock goes away. Let's go to Bruce Jenner.
Mike Mosley in on the pits right now. They had trouble initially getting the fuel contact put in and being able to get fuel into that, but they're giving him some tires. Now they seem to have the problem with the right rear tire with actually getting it on. It's a long stop for Mike Mosley. It's going to hurt. They still have the car up on the jacks. It has already been refueled, and I can see him frantically working on the right rear tire. Mosley is back in it. They seem to have the problem solved, and Mike Mosley is back in the race. Paul?
Mike Mosley, car number 18, started this race in 10th, has continued to operate in just about that position as car number 91, who was identified as the leader under these stops, comes in for his stop. Gordon Johncock has certainly learned how to get attention of both the fans and television. This little technique of waving's got everybody fascinated. Gary talked just a moment about that. Look at that. Now one hand, one hand. Maybe he's just drying his gloves.
I think that's it, Paul. I think he's probably it's a little uncomfortable, and he's got his hands out. I know I do that sometimes. I know Bobby has. Just kind of stick them up in the breeze.
There he was earlier. Had both hands off the wheel.
Right.
Johnny and I just don't wave at the ground that long. That's all.
Gordon Johncock running about 80 miles an hour when they go under the yellow, up, hands in the air. Of course, the car, that's really not a dangerous situation. Some people would say, oh, my goodness, you can't hit the car will go in a straight line.
No, it's a trick. It's a trick, Paul. You put your leg up against the steering wheel to keep the car from turning, and you can drive it with your knee and stick your hands out, and you look like a hero.
The pace car begins to accelerate and pick up speed. It's Gordon Johncock that is our leader. Will bring the field down once again. Dale Fabi is in second place right behind him. Kevin Kogan is in third. John Paul Jr. is in fourth. It's Mike Mosley moving up. He's dropped down a lap as a result of a couple of very long pit stops, and he'll probably make a very quick charge, try to get around Gordy as they come to the green flag.
Well, I think Gordy's going to be very strong. I think he's geared to go. I don't think anybody's going to pass Gordy right away. Steve is the guy that we're going to have to watch moving up too, Paul.
Gordon Johncock, car number 20. It's blue and red, and it comes to the line as Gordy nails the throttle, picks up the speed. The green flag in the hand of the starter, and we're off and running once again. Starting with lap number 71, Johncock leads the field down. Dale Fabi in second place, back about 50 yards from Johncock.
Boy, there is a dogfight brewing there because you've got four guys that can go for it right back there going for second place.
Sitting back there beyond second, as well as Teo in second, is Kevin Kogan, car number 6. And, of course, Al Sr., the senior unser on the circuit right now, is sitting back as well, all ready to close down on Gordon Johncock. That's Johncock on the left of your screen, Teo Fabi on the right. Fabi at 3 pole positions this year, including the Indianapolis 500, has not yet won an IndyCar race. Tom Sneva, well down in the field now, down beyond the top 10, but beginning to thread his way back toward the front and trying to pick up the laps that he has lost as he comes up behind Danny Ungaias. But the battle is still in the front. Teo Fabi moved down on the inside, tried to get past Johncock, but couldn't get it done.
Teo's going to find it right now. That's not the quick way. As you can see, number 6, Kevin Kogan moved up drastically on him while he was real low like that. So I think, like Bobby said a while ago, you can't run quite that low.
Kevin Kogan moves right up on top of Teo Fabi. I'll tell you one thing, though, Johnny Rutherford, Teo Fabi doesn't make the same mistake twice. He's a quick study.
He is. I've noticed that. And he's learning about this oval track racing, and he's got something that he's needed all along, and that's the respect for him.
Teo Fabi challenging with the leader once again as Fabi pulls way high. He ran Johncock low through the corners for a couple of laps, and it looks like he slundered him.
I'm telling you, the sign of a good race driver. Now, when you can pass Gordon Johncock like that, bait him down on the bottom and pass him on the top, you've done a hell of a job for one day.
What a terrific move. He ran him down the bottom 3 laps in a row, and then when Gordy, I assume, estimated that that's what's going to happen again, Bobby jumped high and took the lead.
Well, that is, like Bobby says, that's the mark of a good racer because he was able to pull him down.
Now Kogan comes up behind Johncock, almost center punches him, darts out and around, tries to get past him, but drops back.
Well, there again, Kevin Kogan just sitting there biding his time. He had a chance to move in on Gordy and try him. It didn't work, but he's going to sit back there and wait.
So here is Johncock chasing Teo Fabi. Fabi out in front. R33, the bandit. And Johncock loses control. Johncock spinning up into the wall. He takes Kogan with him. Just suddenly, in between the 3rd and 4th turn, Johncock spun while he was chasing Fabi. Kogan was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he took Kogan to the wall as well. So the yellow is out, 2 cars off the course, and Johncock sitting still in his car. We'll watch steam coming up around the car, not an indication of fire. Johncock unhooks his steering wheel. It comes off so he can climb out. I'm sure that is steam alongside the car, but Johncock is not climbing out. The defending champion, last year's Indianapolis 500 winner, now signaling for a bit of help from the rescue crews. They are already there, just off the picture. Here comes one of the firemen. He now starts to pull the car apart, and he reaches in. Where he's reaching, there's a fire extinguisher release that will release the onboard extinguisher. Tom Sneva comes in, and Sneva apparently got involved. Look at that right front wheel and the damage to the side pod of the car. They continue to work on the rescue with Gordon Johncock.
I can assure you, looking at that, Gordy's feet must be pinned in the car. It's something that seems to happen every time when you make contact with a wall with any strength. The thing caves in, and he's pinned in and cannot get out.
Well, he's conscious. He's talking to his rescuers, but I think you're probably right, pinned in. I hope we don't have another broken ankle. Boy, that's the disease this year, isn't it?
It seems to be. You know, I had a broken ankle and an injured left foot, and it's...
Here comes the leader, Teo Fabi. Fabi comes into the pits. Now, he was out in front when this spin occurred. Kogan and Johncock into the wall. Sneva apparently also getting involved. So Fabi uses the yellow flag, comes in, Barry Green and that marvelous crew that they brought over from Can-Am Racing. Most of these guys, former crew members with Paul Newman's Can-Am team, goes to work. There's Kevin Kogan's car.
I think that was a good move
as well.
Paul, I think that was a good move on Fabi's part. They're really gambling on the rain is what they're gambling on as far as that pit stop so soon.
Long wait in the pits for Tom Sneva, and will they be able to repair it?
Bedard is also up there, car number 36. The black car in the 4th turn was a victim of the oil, obviously, and spun down and is out of his car.
Tom Sneva, a long stop.
Tom's definitely has some front-end problems. They're replacing some parts now.
On it. Here's the accident again, Johnny Rutherford.
Yes, you can see there, Gordon suddenly lost it. I don't know whether something broke or whether he just got into something. Kevin Kogan gathers him up. They both go up, hit the wall.
It's Ganassi down low.
Ganassi, we have a car down at the bottom of the screen that was spinning out of the way. But there you see Kevin Kogan up against the wall. Gordy's car spewing fluids out from under it. Obviously oil from the oil radiator. Car is torn up quite badly and is sliding down.
The guys barely got past.
Oh, they barely did. It was a wonder. And of course, the oil probably created some problems.
Let's look at it now as they make the approach. Maybe we can see the whole thing. I think it was either moisture or oil on the track.
Now you can see there something happened in the back. There at the cars. That was a hard shot Gordon Johncock took, hitting that wall, and Kevin Kogan.
One of the weakest points on these cars is the front end, and there's been a lot of conversation about what we can do to strengthen them. Here we go again, looking at it one more time just after they come off the wall, and you can see the front end on both of these marches badly battered. Johncock slides it to a stop, and Kogan comes to a stop. Up to the wall as we analyze this accident. Again, John, I think that it's just a matter of some fluid or something there, or maybe a part, because not only this, but a couple of cars bobbled after they came through.
Yes, it's very hard to say exactly what could have happened, and of course the car hit the wall and it's destroyed to the point we may never know.
Bobby Unser, let's look at it once again. There's Fabi. Johncock.
Oh, he lost it. Gordy lost it so quick that I just don't feel it was the race car. I feel that, excuse me, I don't feel it was just circumstances on the track. I believe that something snapped on the race car, because Cars just do not spin that quick without a reason, especially cars that are handling as good as Gordy's does.
Little puff of smoke coming off of the car. See it right at the back end, and then he loses it.
Yeah, so obviously there's something happened on the right rear. That's the part that we can't see. And Gordy doesn't lose cars like that, and a car doesn't break away that quick if it's a good car.
He might have cut a tire down just at that instant. And
see, that's another thing. A tire can cut on this racetrack, and you can go so fast.
All right, Kevin Cogan is walking by Gordon Johncock's car while the rescuer is still working with Johncock. We're still under caution on the race course. There is Patrick Bedard's car, number 35. That's out of the car and fine. He was also involved in this accident that also involved this car, Tom Sneva. Now, Gordon Johncock lost it coming off of the third turn. He immediately collected up Kevin Cogan, but debris from those cars apparently also got Bedard and got Tom Sneva. Now, Mark Bridges and his crew, a proud crew, they call themselves the Pirates, are working on the right front upright of that car. Let's go down to Gary Gerald.
They've been working on this upright for several moments now. It appears there is some damage to that right side pod behind the upright. I don't know if we can see it in this particular shot or not, but it would appear, and this is a supposition, that Sneva ran over something because of that damage back into the pod behind the upright. They're trying to replace a portion of it at this point. They've been running back and forth over the wall. Sneva's hopes certainly of going on to win the Triple Crown and that $1 million bonus prize have evaporated here in the last couple of minutes because the field continues to circle the track on yellow. All Sneva can do is sit here and watch his crew continue to work on the right front of his car.
Johnny, you did break your legs at Indianapolis. We had Peter Halsmer, John Paul. They're going to have to do something to the front of these cars.
Yes, they are, Paul. You know, and it's something that's being discussed quite regularly now. They want.
Johnny, let me interrupt you as they unload the ambulance. Let's go down to Bruce Jenner.
Well, right now they're getting everybody out of the ambulance. Kevin Cogan under his own power coming out. Gordy's got his hands behind his head and giving us a signal that he's okay. A smile on his face. He gave us an okay sign, so he must not be in too much pain at this point, but they're going to bring him in and they're going to check him out inside the hospital.
So Don Whittington back in, changing a left rear tire. They obviously had the stagger wrong before, Paul. They're just changing a left rear tire now is all they're changing.
Talk about stagger. That's a difference in the size of the tires.
Yes, the stagger means that it's a minute amount, too. They measure it in tenths of inches. So it's really a very small amount, but it makes a big difference because the rear ends are really, one wheel drives just as fast as the other wheel does, which means that the stagger is going to be a very important thing.
Don Whittington still under the yellow and back into competition. The pace car now advancing the field as Don Whittington comes in, and it looks like we'll be coming to the green flag with Bobby Rahal out in front of the field. Don Whittington, by nature of that pit stop, has lost some time. He comes back to speed as the pace car comes by, and Rick Mears pulls up to challenge Rahal, and as they come to the green flag, Mears powers his way past Rahal. So Rick Mears out in front of the race. The car totally rebuilt by Peter Parrott and the crew last night, and here it is out in front of the race.
Well, obviously it's working, Paul, because he didn't waste any time going by Rahal, taking the lead, and he's not giving it up down the backstretch.
Rick Mears, car number 1, the defending national champion. Bobby Rahal right behind him, closing in. Let's go down to Bruce Jenner.
Gordy, I apologize for having an interview on a very difficult situation, but there's just a lot of people out there that want to know how you're doing. How are you?
Well, everything's fine. It's just, I think it's my right ankle and my left leg a little bit, but don't worry, we're going to be back.
All right, do you have any idea what happened with the car?
Something broke on the car, definitely, because I'm just going into the corner into number 3, and it just swapped ends and spun, so I don't know, something broke on the car.
All right, off to the hospital. Hope the x-rays work out for you. Good luck to you.
Gordon Johncock, what a gentleman to spend that time with us. There's Teo Fabi in and out of the pits. Now, we told you he was going to receive a penalty because he ran over his hose. They wait until the green flag to assess the penalty. They brought him into the pits, they stopped him, and he's moving back up to speed. Rick Mears still leading Bobby Rahal at the front of the course. Gordon Johncock ready to make that trip into Jackson, Michigan to the Foot Hospital. That's the name of the hospital, not what they treat. And it looks like another right ankle shattered.
I feel for him, I tell you, Paul, because that's not any trip to Paris.
Gordon Johncock loads into the ambulance while Rick Mears leads the 500. Bobby Rahal comes alongside. Here's a challenge for the lead. Rahal down low. Can he hold it there? Rick handling high. Rahal holds it for the moment. Rick's still up high. They come off the corner. Rick drops back a bit. Ray Hall's still out in front. His engine just a little stronger. A little better entry to the turn. Flashes over the start-finish line. Still a drag race going into one.
Boy, they are really going in. And, of course, Rick had the perfect line there. He was able to come down on the bottom and then kind of let the momentum carrying him up past Ray Hall. Ray Hall looks like he's a little stronger down the straightaway. There he is, pulling back up, making a challenge, going back by Mears. What a dogfight.
Ray Hall tries Mears on the inside on the approach to the third turn. Now the 21st lead change of the race as Bobby Ray Hall comes back into the lead. A March and a Penske doing battle on the course. The March out in front at the moment. Bobby Ray Hall at the wheel. A PC-11 right behind. Rick Mears, the pilot.
Well, the reason for the big charge right now obviously is possible rain. Just remember, the people should understand that if it rains, where you are after the halfway point is going to be the decision point if it rains it out. Now these guys are gambling that it's going to rain and they are charging hard right now.
Going just as fast as they can. The scheduled distance 500 miles, 250 laps, but once 126 laps have been run. The race could be called if it rains.
We've got 3 cars. Ray Hall, Rick Mears, and Al Jr.
Here's Big Al.
Away.
Big Al, as he's chasing Chip Ganassi. Al has dropped back to 6th place. He was up at the lead at the start of that yellow flag, and Tom Bigelow, out of the race, pulls to a stop. He waves to the safety crews and says everything's fine. Here is Al Unser Sr., car number 7, as he heads toward the line, currently running in 6th place. Al Sr. out on the race course, running just as fast as he can. We asked Al Jr., the youngest driver today, about Al Sr. and his son's development in racing.
His development is very rapid and very, very, very good. You know, 5 years ago, somebody had asked me if he'd be doing what he's doing today. I would say no. It takes too long to develop. And here he's done it in a very, very short time. So it makes me very proud and happy. And I often wonder why I didn't develop that quick.
Well, he developed quick enough as Big Al is running just as hard as he can. There's the 17 car of Little Al. Bobby, you got to be proud of him, too. He's a nephew.
Yes.
Doing a terrific job.
He just went by Rick Mears, and I don't pick any favorites, but I'd have to say that he is my nephew, and I'm happy to see him pass Rick. And he's done a good job today, honestly.
Blood is thicker than water.
It is. It really is thicker than water.
We're back at the front of the race now. Here is Bobby Rahal, the Red Roost Inns March, car number 2. Won here on this oval last fall. Has 2 races to his credit in the IndyCar racing. Jim Truman, the car owner, and the crew do a marvelous job of preparation, and it's paying off for them today. Bobby Rahal, the current leader of the race.
Bobby Rahal is certainly learning the trade well. He's had some problems this year and some disappointments, Paul, but he's doing exceptionally well right now, and it's to be expected. He's a fine race driver.
Bobby Rahal out in front. Second place is Little Al in car number 17, Al Unser Jr. Can-Am champion, marvelous racing driver, seems to go fast and no matter what he drives. Take a look now at the relationship. First, second, third place as the 3 cars come through. There's second place, Little Al, and here comes Rick Mears in car number 1. So the battle is still up at the front in a smooth race here in the Michigan 500.
Well, it is. It's a good battle, and the battle, Paul, is really because everybody's thinking it may rain because we've got clouds all around us. But so far, right here, the weather is beautiful. It's cool, quite the opposite of what we expected, and the cars are a lot faster than we expected.
Well, when they have the green flag, they get a wonderfully smooth run, but we've been interrupted by yellow, one of those for rain. Rain, of course, delayed the start of the race 2 hours, and everybody is watching the clock and watching the end of the day, including us. 6:30, we may just run out of time and coverage of this, the Michigan 500. We'll let you know.
People that miss it are going to miss a good race, Paul. I feel sorry for it.
We watch the leader, Bobby Rahal, comes across the line. Look at the interval. Little Al comes across. And we'll catch a lap time now. 36 seconds here. It's 200 miles an hour. They shouldn't be running quite that fast because of the fuel load and the race setup. But Rahal is just flying around this course. They turned this 500 miler, Johnny Ruttenberg, into a sprint race.
Yes, they have, Paul. And you know, initially when they asked us what we thought of a 500-miler at Michigan International Speedway, boy, we all said, forget it. That's just going to be too far and too long and too hard. But it's turned into one of the top races, the premier races on the circuit. And we all enjoy running here. And you have to gear yourself mentally to handle the 500 miles at this place.
Bobby Rahal turned that lap 37 and 4/10 seconds, 192.5 miles an hour. Came up behind Teo Fabi at the same time. The yellow flag is out again. Again, the report, debris on the race course. The yellow came out. All right, let's check in the situation down in the pits once again. Here's Gary Gerald. Gary?
Oh, we're in Mario Andretti's pit. Carl Haas, the owner of this team. And Carl, it's been a real thrash this week. A brand new Lola. Team's worked hard. It looks like it's starting to pay off at this point.
Well, I think we're about to go green, but really Paul Newman and I own it together. We were going good at the beginning. We had a flat tire on the rear, and that put us back a little bit. And we can't quite get the tire balance quite right, but we're hanging in there, so we'll see what happens.
Well, the way things are going at this rate, if you can keep hanging, that may be a great spot to be in.
Well, it might be. It's a long race.
All right, we're going green. Let's go back upstairs.
As we watch Mario Andretti in car number 3, they pick the speed up. The pace car comes off the course. It is Al Jr., little Al, that will lead the field down to the line once again in his car number 17. That car is an Eagle, performing very, very well as he acknowledges that he's coming back to speed now. The green light winks on, and once again, we are racing at lap 115 in the Michigan 500. So little Al out in front, 4 cars abreast coming through right behind him as Rahal and Andretti come down on the inside. They're battling with one another. Dick Ferguson up on the high side, and quite a show as they head off through the first turn, but little Al just disappears.
Boy, he is doing a wonderful job. We'll have to see how the pit stop situation comes into it. There's your race for second. Rahal, Andretti figuring up front for the first time, or the second time this season. He was doing well at Cleveland, but he's hanging in there, and I'm sure that's quite a thrill for Paul Newman and Carl Haas.
Out in front, little Al leading in the Michigan 500. He has not yet won an IndyCar race.
Boy, you can't say he doesn't know how to start a race, though.
Moved up into 5th place in the standings as well. So the Unser family doing a pretty good job.
Yes, they are. In fact, Big Al is just moving up. For a moment there, he was just right behind Rick Mears. It's going to be a heck of a battle right there in the back. Al is way in the lead, but the rest of it really is a tight battle.
There's that battle for second as Andretti, his car now working, comes inside Rahal, and Andretti goes right past Rahal, Johnny.
That is something. Mario has finally obviously got the tire balance right, and he's make the right move. He's in second place, and Rahal now will have to work on him.
But we've got to admit, we've been very disappointed the late start of the race and the delays we've had. But boy, when they're racing very well.
Well, the big race right at the moment is Fabi, Rick Mears, and Al Sr. and Don Whittington coming up right behind. They are having a fierce battle right now.
There's Big Al, Fabi down on the low side as they continue to chop at one another down the backstretch. Look at this.
They've been going side by side. They've been going side by side every lap.
Don Whittington comes in, picks up a position on Fabi, so they're chopping at one another constantly. Again, everybody trying to decide how fast and how far they can run. They're thinking that maybe they won't complete 500 miles here in the Michigan 500.
Now there's Big Al going right by Rick Mears. Now he's starting to work again. He must have got his car fixed during that last pit stop, Paul.
Little Al Unser, car number 17, out and leading the Michigan 500. 119 laps ticked by, 250 the scheduled distance. Second place currently Bobby Rahal. Mario Andretti continues to hold on in third. And then the Penske team, Rick Mears and Al Unser, follow up in 4th and 5th place. They've been chopping at the lead back and forth for the past several laps. But now a problem for Al Unser as number 17 slows and Jim McElreath spins. But McElreath keeps it off of the wall. The yellow flag comes out. Little Al apparently running out of fuel on the backstretch, but McElreath spins, brings out the yellow. That will serve to benefit Little Al as he will be towed in under the yellow flag. The yellow flag out because Jim McElreath lost control, spun it up, but did not touch the wall. And so McElreath will be towed in as well and should be able to continue. That gives the lead of the race now to Mario Andretti in car number 3, that Lola that has been so troublesome for Carl Haas and Paul Newman, the owners of this car, and certainly for Mario Andretti from the beginning of the season. But now it's leading the Michigan 500. As the race resumes, it's Mario Andretti leading Bobby Rahal and Pancho Carter. But the real battle on the course is developing further back away from the lead. The leaders generally strung out and content to follow one another. Here is the battle that everyone is watching. It's a battle for 4th place as Rick Mears and Al Unser, the Penske team, are now being challenged by John Paul Jr.
We're seeing the two PC-11s, the brand new model for 1983, driven by Unser and Mears, and now Mears trying to move up to take over the 4th spot, and John Paul Jr. on the move in a PC-10. That's last year's model that Mears went on to a national championship in.
John Paul Jr. rolls past Rick Mears and into 5th place, and now sets his sights on Al Unser Sr., currently occupying the 4th position. Once again, 2 different types of machines. John Paul Jr. in last year's model, and the 2 yellow cars of the current Penske team are PC-11s, the current edition.
Just past the midway point of this 500-mile competition, tremendous 3-way dogfight continuing for positions 4, 5, and 6, while Mario Andretti continues to set the pace.
John Paul Jr. picks up the pace. Car number 12 on the roll now. Comes inside Al Sr. And John Paul pushes his way down on the racetrack. He can run that car anywhere he wants, and he moves now into 4th place. Here's the leader, Mario Andretti. Bobby Rahal is right behind in 2nd, Pancho Carter in 3rd. But now John Paul Jr. with a challenge on Pancho Carter. And John Paul does it again. Simply drives by on the inside as they come to the backstretch. Pancho Carter drops back to 4th place. Al Unser in 5th and Rick Mears in 6th. The leader, Mario Andretti, due now for a stop as he heads down the pit road. So Andretti comes in. Bobby Rahal right behind in 2nd place. Follows Andretti in as well. Mario Andretti, the leader at car number 3. Out on the course, it is now John Paul Jr. picking up the lead. Let's go to Gary.
Should be a routine stop for the Paul Newman, Carl Haas, Budweiser team. The car up on the jacks, fresh right side rubber being changed now for Mario Andretti. He has been the leader, but John Paul has now flashed by. He takes over the number 1 spot. Fuel also being added. We anticipate that this stop is indeed routine, and Andretti being pushed off, lights up the tires as he pulls away.
So Mario Andretti back into the action, heads down pit road, a stop under the green as quick as it was, still losing a great deal of distance on the course as Andretti furiously charges back into the action. But this gives the lead to John Paul Jr. in car number 12. John Paul now leading his first time ever in IndyCar competition here in the Michigan 500. The defending CART champion, Rick Mears, currently running in 2nd, and his teammate, Al Unser Sr., is currently in 3rd place. Now 207 laps complete, 414 miles. The yellow out as Tail Bobby spins, recovers, and goes to the pits.
Barry Green, the Forsyth Skoll team, over the wall to check on their driver. A CART official pointing. Now water being thrown. Apparently a fuel leakage problem of some type. The diminutive Italian who started on the pole, unbuckling. He's out of the car. He is out of the race.
With 216 laps complete, the green flag about to fly again. Andretti heads down on the pit road. John Paul Jr. screams down off the course, pinches Andretti toward the wall. Andretti shakes his fist furiously back at John Paul as 1st and 2nd place come in for a last-minute stop before the green flag comes out.
Andretti getting through that wet spot where water was poured on Teo Fabi's car. They should just top off with fuel, just over 30 laps remaining. They want to make certain that they do have enough fuel to go the distance. However, there is also fresh right side rubber being applied to Andretti's car.
At the same time, the crew goes to work on John Paul Jr.'s car. Number 12 comes off the pits, hesitates just a bit, spins the tires coming through that water, almost loses control. Andretti follows John Paul Jr. out, so both cars end at the end of the yellow flag and moving back into the competition as John Paul Jr. accelerates now. Coming off of pit road, Andretti follows him off. But both cars are able to stay on the leader lap by stopping under the yellow. 436 miles now complete. The green flag flies again. Al Unser leads Rick Mears. John Paul Jr. is in 3rd and Mario Andretti in 4th.
Tremendous 4-way dogfight. 2 lap cars figuring in this battle down in turn number 1. Bobby Rahal, Pancho Carter in there. Andretti through on the high side, protecting 3rd. John Paul pinched off in that traffic in the 4th position. Pancho Carter now slides back out in front of Andretti as they move to the back straightaway. John Paul moving on Rahal, trying to stay right on the backside of Mario Andretti. The race for 3rd place.
Out in front now, and with some breathing room, is the leader in car number 7, Al Unser Sr. His teammate, Rick Mears, is in pursuit, running currently in second place. But it's John Paul Jr. and Mario Andretti that are in the biggest battle on the course, as they're running with the traffic of Bobby Rahal and Pancho Carter 1 lap down. And Al Unser Jr., who had the lead in the early going, now trying to work his way back up to the front several laps off the pace, comes around the second place car of Rick Mears in car number 1. Now here is that battle. This is third place as John Paul Jr. challenges Andretti. Jr. again using the low side of the race course. Andretti can't hold on. John Paul Jr. forges his way past and picks up third.
Incredible performance by young John Paul, the rookie driver. Only his second time on a bank racetrack. Only his 4th time in competition in an Indy car.
Now Rick Mears closing up behind Al Unser. The battle is for first place. Al Unser holding off his teammate. Mears comes in right behind, closes up, tries to run a little bit lower on the course. Now they come to the backstretch. It's Rick Mears in car number 1 in second place, chasing Al Unser in car number 7. Their teammates, the cars are both Penske PC-11s. They're powered by a Cosworth, and the Cosworth power now pouring on in Rick Mears' car. He comes low alongside Al. Al has to drop high, get on the brakes just a bit, and Rick Mears moves into first place.
Some question in the Penske camp, Paul, as to whether or not these cars will be able to finish. They'll have to go more than 40 laps on a tank of fuel, and John Paul stalking them right now in the third spot has really closed up.
You can throw a blanket over the first 3 cars. Mears leads. Al Unser Sr. in second, and John Paul Jr., this fabulous rookie, has moved up to challenge 2 longtime veterans.
Once again in turn number 3, where he's worked so well all day long, John Paul Jr. making the pass of Al Unser cleanly low on the inside of the racetrack. Now takes over the number 2 spot.
Now John Paul can challenge for the lead as we go to the closing laps. As John Paul Jr. in car number 12, the red car trimmed in white and blue, chases that bright yellow Penske PC-11 of Rick Mears.
Certainly no indication by Mears that he is slowing the pace. There had been some concern in the Penske pit whether or not he had enough fuel to go the distance. Remember, they made a stop prior to the 210 lap mark, meaning they'd have to go more than 40 laps on a tank of fuel. That might be cutting it just a bit close, but he continues to set a red-hot pace. John Paul Jr. lurking directly behind him. Al Unser Sr., however, has slipped back just a bit after leading a considerable distance. He's now third.
Rick Mears, who at the beginning of the season said he wasn't driving the races in his old style. That is, he wasn't pacing himself. He wasn't letting the race come to him. He's done a fine job today, but John Paul tried to the inside, couldn't get it done as they got bottled up behind Jim McElreath, and that will cost John Paul, who now falls backwards just a bit, and Rick Mears pulls away.
Well, Paul, on more than one occasion today, we've seen John Paul making his passes on the low side of the racetrack. That PC-10 has been handling beautifully there. However, he lost a little bit in that attempt. Let's see if he can close ground once again on the front-running Rick Mears. Mears searching for his first victory of the 1983 CART PPG season.
John Paul closes once again. This PC-10 prepared by Phil Casey and his crew. They've really done a magnificent job. John Paul seems to be able to place the car at about any position on the race course, any attitude that he wants. Right now, he's in a pursuit of Rick Mears, the leader, but Mears seems to be holding his own. Mears allowed the race to fall back to him. He's now the leader. And if John Paul is going to catch Rick Mears, he's going to have to do it very quickly. The first 3 cars in this race are all Penske's. Rick Mears in an 11, John Paul in a 10, and Al Unser in a PC-11.
And down on the Penske pit, Roger watching with some concern. He's seen Al Unser slip from first back to third. He's seen John Paul closing consistently on Rick Mears. And this has to be somewhat of a surprise. John Paul, in only his 4th start in an Indy car, he survived a bad crash during the month of May at Indianapolis. He's a veteran endurance racer. In fact, won the World Championship last year, co-driving to 9 victories, but only the 2nd time on a high-bank racetrack. And frankly, I think he's surprised an awful lot of people, including Roger Penske this weekend.
Rick Mears still leads the race. We've seen some wonderful and courteous driving by some of the cars back in the field. They just came around Dick Simon as they come to the white flag with 2 miles to go. Simon immediately pulled out of the way. Now Rick Mears closes down, comes below Chris Neifel. Mears powers past Neifel. John Paul Jr. comes in, closes behind Mears. Mears has to drop behind Neifel. They're in Neifel's draft now. Now John Paul Jr. pursues Mears. John Paul drops inside Mears, forges his way past. He's down on the apron. He gets past Rick Mears. John Paul leads it, and Mears is spinning. Rick Mears up, hits the wall. Knifel torpedoes right into Mears. A serious accident. John Paul now screaming for the checkered flag. It's unbelievable. Rick Mears is going to climb out of that battered and broken race car. The rear wing is gone. The nose is gone. Now the safety crews come to help Rick. He looks like he's been stunned by this crash. Chris Knifel also involved. The safety crews are with him as well. Not the best way to rescue a driver, especially if he has back or rib injuries, but now the other crew's with him. Here's the last lap again. Coming to the third turn, John Paul dropped very low, stayed above the white line. He was using the draft created by Knifel's car, was able to forge his way past Rick Mears. Now the air coming off the back of John Paul's car is extremely turbulent, and as Rick Mears got into that air, it appeared that his down forces went completely away. He lost his aerodynamics and began this spin. The spin carried him up toward the wall. He almost caught the wall head on, was able to get it turned at the last second. But then here came Chris Knifel. Knifel speared the rear end of Rick Mears' car, causing heavy damage to the front of Knifel's car, and both cars finally slide to a stop. Fortunately, there's no fire. The safety systems are so good, no flash at all, but two heavily damaged race cars. As Rick Mears, look at how badly caved in the front end is, and I'm surprised that Rick Mears is not more seriously injured. In victory circle, it's John Paul Jr., his first win in an Indy car, now the third winner of the Michigan 500. Out on the course, Derek Walker and Peter Parrott, the crew chiefs for Mears' car, stand by that broken machine. They're surprised at the damage. The rescue crews still work with Chris Knifel. We understand he is all right, though. And Rick Mears now getting off at the hospital. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Congratulations. I don't know if you can put in words what it must feel like to win the first one, to win it under these circumstances, the crash at Indianapolis, the drama on the last lap. What's it feel like right now?
Well, I'm still a little bit in awe right now. I can't really believe I won. Had a really good battle going there with Rick at the end. He tried to block me on the last corner going into 3 there. We come off of Chris Knifel's draft, and I just put it down in the apron and hoped for the best, and I don't know what happened to him. I don't think we touched wheels, though, but I sure thank God for being here. I'd like to say hello to my father. I love you.
A wonderful sentiment by John Paul Jr. as they bring Rick Mears' car in. The last lap, one of the classic moments in motorsports, as John Paul Jr. proved he really wanted the win and went for it. As he wins, Al Unser comes home in second, Mario Andretti third. Rick Mears still finishes in fourth despite the accident. Bobby Rahal in fifth. Pancho Carter, then little Al Unser, Chip Ganassi, Chris Knifel in that accident to finish, finishes ninth, and Steve Chassis comes home in 10th. Al Unser, by the nature of this finish, continues his lead with 85 points in the PPG World Series. Rick Mears follows up in second, Tom Sneva in third place in the point standings now. Beautiful day here in the Poconos, a crowd of over 45,000.